Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. There is a lot to get into today, so we're just going to jump right into it. Since Garnet Genuis' comment from yesterday's question period about the bathtub, there has been a huge explosion online, in the media, about this being a homophobic comment or a homophobic slur, especially since that's what Trudeau said during the question period. However, and you could say that this is just my opinion, but if anybody just took a little bit of time to listen to what was actually said and in the procedure of how it happened, you can clearly see that this was him just taking a jab at them spending so much money on the condo. Now, we're going to go through a few things. Here we have this channel or this page here, PoliSci. He claims that he's a political fact checker and a non-liberal, which is another thing. But he wrote yesterday, Conservative MP Garnet Genuis was the one who yelled the homophobic comment at the Prime Minister. Garnet implies that Trudeau and the Counsel General of Canada, Tom Clark, engaged each other in the bathtub. That is false. I played the video yesterday, which I'll play a little bit later, of what he actually said. And in the answer, it was confirmed of what I actually put in my video was what was said in the House. He then goes to at Blake Desjardins, who's the NDP member, saying, it is of my opinion that Garnet should at the very least be censored for this comment, but I highly doubt that would be done. Shout out to Desjardins Blake, who called a point of order regarding this. Now, he did call for the Speaker of the House, Greg Fergus, to look into this and find out who said it, even though he says he knows who said it.
Speaker.
You didn't hear it, and you can't really say whether it's homophobic or not.
Well, I did hear it.
You did hear the remark.
I did hear the remark, but I want the Speaker to clarify and verify what was heard, because I want to take this issue seriously. It's important that we get the exact wording and the exact person who said it without speculating. I think that's fair to ask.
So if you actually heard it, did you go up to the individual who said it and ask that person, what did you mean by it, or are you leaving everything with the Speaker?
I want to leave everything to the Speaker to ensure that we have an accurate account of what took place, that we can come from a verified position to address the concerns and take them seriously.
Why are you
and
talking
take
about
a
it now if you're
concerned
not
issue. Because I want the Speaker to make a ruling about it.
Is there any indication he won't?
He did say yesterday that he's going to take that under advisement and he may return to the House. And so I'm encouraging my parliamentarian colleagues to take this issue seriously and to ensure that the Speaker of the House of Commons actually comes with a very reasonable request of the information we've asked for. Or sorry, we'd acknowledge our reasonable request for the information we asked for, which is a transcript from the Blues. There's people who get paid in the House of Commons to listen to every single word that was spoken. We must have a transcript. I reviewed the tape myself. I want to reserve my comments on what I thought I heard, because that's a matter of debate right now, and so we need to have the same shared facts. That's how we combat disinformation, is making sure we have a verifiable fact to debate.
But then this so-called political fact checker posted an update saying, after much more listening and discussion, I believe now he is saying, did you bathe each other in the bathtub? Again, extremely wrong. But then he links the video to exactly the point, zooms in, and he writes, did you engage each other in the bathtub? Again, that was not what was said. And I don't want to seem like I'm just picking on this one guy's page. I came across this while I was looking into what people were thinking about all this. But just today, on David Cochrane's program again, he was playing a little bit of the video, and he even wrote, did you engage each other in the bathtub? When Garnet Genuis earlier today came out and explained what his comment was about, and I'm going to play that now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And we've heard a few words said in this House about bullying. I'm trying to provide an explanation with context and to answer false allegations that have been made against me, and I will persist in doing that. So following questions from the Leader of the Opposition about a $9 million luxury condo purchased by the government, and in particular identifying among the features of that condo a luxury bathtub, the Prime Minister ignored reference to those features and instead spoke about the engagement done by the government internationally.
Right.
And the Hansard shows the exchange. And many of the comments about made on Twitter about what was allegedly said don't reflect what's in the Hansard. The Hansard notes, does he engage with them in the bathtub? The point of that comment is to illustrate that, of course, meetings don't take place in a bathtub. A luxurious bathtub has nothing to do with meetings. The Prime Minister's answer had nothing to do with the questions, but it had nothing to do with sex. I wasn't thinking about sex at all. Never mind. Not
Now, even with that explanation, which is very clear, makes a lot of sense if you actually think about it, put two brain cells together and just think about what he said and how it came about. During the House of Commons today, Heather McPherson, the NDP, went on this little spiel, this rant. This guy again, poli-sci, don't want to pick on him, but he continues to say, in another bizarre exchange on the debate of confidence, the NDP members raised the question about the homophobic comments by Garnet Genuis yesterday. The deputy speaker shut all of them down, asking them to retract. I'm starting to think this whole speaker's office is a joke. He then links this clip, which I actually was going to be playing some of this today, but then goes on to write, I know this was a longer clip, but I wanted to share with you all what happened here. This is just bizarre at this point. Shout out, I guess he's right, shout out, to Heather McPherson. These are all parties in the NDP, except for Mark Gerritsen, who is a liberal, and pushing the chair to make the decision here. And when you look at some of the comments here, you can tell that these people are just uneducated individuals. Thank you for posting this. The bias in favor of the Conservative member MP is clear, at Greg Ferguson. This individual who shut down all of those things in this clip, this is Carol Hughes. She's a member of the NDP because, yes, Greg Ferguson is the Speaker of the House, but that's only during question period. The other sessions that happen, it rotates between a Conservative chair, an NDP chair, and Fergus, the Liberal chair. And this one from this clip, which I will be playing a little bit later, where a lot of them got shut down or asked to retract their comments because they were attacking the Conservatives again, was done by Carol Hughes. She's an NDP member. I think this is actually her last year as an NDP, or I think she's getting out of politics, but it's not like this was in favor of the Conservatives. They're trying to push forward to stop this bickering that's happening. It's very childish, in my opinion, in the House of Commons, yet the NDP and the Liberals, more in particular the NDP in this session here, all they were doing was attacking, calling them this, calling them that. McPherson talked about the Conservatives are dangerous, a threat to democracy. Again, these talking points, which is what the Conservative member asked her to retract, as well as pointing out that it was Garnet Genuis when things were still being, I guess, investigated.
Here we are again in the House of Commons debating the Conservatives' ridiculous motions that they bring forward time and time again. And I have to say, for all of those Canadians who are struggling right now, all of those Canadians who are struggling to put food on the table, who are struggling to pay for their rent or buy their first home, folks that are struggling in our country, what it must feel like to them to see the gamesmanship and the ridiculousness and the absolute baffling behavior of the Conservative Party. You know, on Tuesday, we did a debate just like this, and we voted, every single member of this House, except the Conservative Party, voted in non-confidence in the official member of the opposition, the leader of the official opposition. And I also want to point something out. They are deeply, deeply unserious, and they are misleading Canadians. They are a danger, and I don't say this lightly, they are a danger to our democracy. They won't speak with media. I don't know if everybody knows, but they have currently said they won't speak to the CBC, but now they won't speak to the CTV, clearly not recognizing that media plays an important role in any democracy because media is allowed to ask questions of the opposition, questions that they clearly don't want to answer.
You know, there's a reason I usually skip this woman or mute her because she just talks nonsense. The fact that she's stating on Tuesday, everybody but the Conservatives voted to go against the non-confidence. When the Conservatives are putting forward the non-confidence, why would the Conservatives vote against that? That doesn't make any sense. But then she's talking about how now they're not going on CBC or CTV. Well, why do you think that is? CTV was just caught fabricating a story or a line about the Conservatives, their leader, Pierre Poilievre. Why would they then continuously go on the program until it was rectified? Like, again, just rub your two brain cells together and think about what you're actually saying. But it gets worse. Just take a listen.
They don't actually have to answer any difficult questions about, like, what is your actual policy? Like, do you believe in climate change? Like, are you homophobic? Like, are you anti-women? Yes. Will you take away women's rights to reproductive health? They don't want to answer those questions. Even though, the member for Peace River Westlock comes to this house and talks about the fact that he would take away the rights for gay marriage, that he would take away the rights for women. The fact that yesterday we saw a disgusting display of homophobia from the member from Fort Saskatchewan, Sherwood Park, who talked about, that is horrendous and he should be ashamed.
Order. I just want to remind honourable members to please be careful on how they're referencing events that have happened in the House. There was no decision made on that. Their point of order was raised and no indication was, nobody was identified, and that response is forthcoming. So I just want to remind members to please be careful. And again, on the personal attacks, I would rather individuals focus on the legislation itself. I think that, the debate should be on the motion. The Honourable for Caribou Prince George had raised prior to, so I will get him first. The Honourable Member for Caribou Prince George.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member, I mentioned a while ago that if members continue to heckle and they're not respecting the will of the chair, that I won't be recognizing them for questions and debate. So I would ask members to please hold off on their comments and questions until they're being recognized. The honourable for Caribou Prince George.
Madam Speaker, I appreciate the effort that you are going through today. We are seeing aspersions and quite frankly lies coming from the other side.
The honourable member now is raising again. Even misleading is becoming problematic. It's on how you use the word. So I would just ask members to please raise the point of order that he wants to raise and not be on personal attacks either.
Madam Speaker, you are doing yeoman's service in the chair today. You're doing your very best to try and quell some of the activity that's going on in this House. Madam Speaker, I applaud you for that. But time and again, what we are seeing from both the leader from the Liberal, as well as this speech that we're seeing that's there, a threat to democracy is another. There's comments that I do not believe are parliamentary and should not be entered into the record. I ask through you, Madam Speaker, that you ask the honourable colleague that is speaking right now to retract that, as well as the member from Timmins, James Bay, for his comments.
Now, there you are again hearing Heather McPherson talking about the dangers of what the Conservatives are going to do. They're going to be cutting the pension and the health care and women's rights and abortion and all this stuff. Just because certain members of the party have a stronger view on abortion than the other ones do, and they've tried to push private member bills, which typically don't get passed, doesn't mean that now the Conservatives are going to make abortion illegal. And this was something that was talked about much earlier in the year, and Pierre Poilievre came out blatantly and said never are they going to be touching anything on abortion.
Welcome back to Question Period. While anti-abortion protesters gathered on Parliament Hill this week inside the House of Commons, Liberal MPs accused the Conservatives of preparing to attack reproductive rights. Using Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's recent comments about applying the notwithstanding clause to criminal laws, the Liberals say Poilievre will use that tool to scale back women's rights.
Are we fear-mongering? Yeah. Unequivocally, no. It wasn't too long ago in this country that abortion was a crime. So it is not too much to say that this is the slope we could be going down.
If they're against also getting contraceptives, then how exactly are women supposed to have control over their own bodies in this country? And their lack of willingness to talk about sex education or to talk about sex at all is, to me, deeply disturbing.
The notwithstanding clause allows governments to override portions of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and protect their legislation from court challenges for a period of 5 years. In response, Poilievre's office had this to say, writing, quote, in part, this outlandish claim shows the true desperation of Justin Trudeau and his flailing Liberals. A common-sense Conservative government will not legislate on abortion and therefore would never use this section of the Constitution pertaining to this matter.
And in regards to healthcare and the pension, Andrew Scheer just finished clarifying that, I think it was last week or the week before, and they're still peddling this talking point.
But more to the point, what they have criticized your government for is what they say will happen, your party for, pardon me, is what they say will happen if your government, I'm going to put the specifics to you. Mr. Singh this week said that a Conservative government would take away your pensions and take away health care. You can answer very plainly right here if that is the case. Do you plan to change pensions for Canadians, to remove them in any way, or to cut health care transfers to the provinces?
Of course not, Vashi.
So when we want to talk about misinformation and disinformation being spread across these political parties, you can definitely look at the Liberals and the NDP. Not to say the Conservatives are squeaky clean. They say a lot of crazy stuff too. But in this regard, it's been proven time and time again that whatever they're claiming the Conservatives are going to do or say they're going to do is actually not true. It's a complete opposite. They either say that they're never going to do that, that they have no plans on doing that, yet they're the ones that are the danger to democracy and to Canadians, apparently.
We'll continue to do that fight. We will not take any lessons from a party that uses bumper stickers as policy, a party that has shown itself to be deeply unserious and misleading towards Canadians, and frankly, a party that is very, very dangerous for our democracy. Thank you.
And again, all this is coming from Heather McPherson, the NDP member whose leader apparently keeps talking about how bad the Liberals are, how much they failed, how weak they are, yet has voted to keep them in power with these now 2 non-confidence votes. And she actually admitted that she will never vote with Pierre, ever.
Are you, this is a real toughie, are you going to support the confidence motion of Mr. Poilievre today?
No.
And what do you make of
I
this?
will support Mr. Poilievre, never, likely.
Okay. And Mr. Genuis's statement after question period?
Horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. It was horrendous that the Speaker allowed that to happen, and it's disgusting that that member refuses to apologize for a homophobic slur in the House of Commons. It makes this an unsafe work environment for so many of us.
This woman's fear-mongering and being hyperbolic is on another level. There's no danger to anybody in the House of Commons, especially from that comment, which was in no way homophobic. He was simply stating that they went out to purchase a $9 million condo that had all of these extravagant fixtures, like a handcrafted soaker tub. And Trudeau's response to that was, well, we need to have engagement with foreign diplomats and international individuals. You don't need a handcrafted soaker tub for that. And that's what Garnet was getting at. Is he having these meetings with these individuals in the soaker tub? Like, it's not something that's gay. He's just saying it's unnecessary to have all these extravagant features if that's all you're doing. If you're just having purchasing a place to have these meetings, all this handcrafted stuff and marble this, $5,000 coffee machine, onyx crystals here, whatever it was, is unnecessary. But then you have all these snowflakes here that are just getting their feelings hurt when they're saying they're listening to the playback, they see the audio, they see the answer has the comment. Clearly he wasn't making a homophobic statement. And this is just perpetuated again with the media, because as we get into the David Cochrane portion of this video, the panel that he has there, again, he peddles the wrong quote, even though it's been rectified. But they start going on the attack and saying, what's going on in the House of Commons is pretty childish. I don't disagree there. A lot of name calling, a lot of back and forth, which is unnecessary. We want our parliament to be working for us, not just putting on a theatric show. But this panel does start to attack the Conservatives and say, well, they keep putting forward this motion, kind of like what McPherson was saying there. They're putting forth this motion, but they don't even have a platform yet. They haven't explained what they're doing. And the former Conservative member really educates them, it seems, and lays into them saying like, no, this is the way it's done. They're not the government. They are the opposition. It's their job to hold the government accountable, but you guys are treating them as if they are the government. Just take a listen.
The most recent and still unresolved issue was from yesterday. Take a listen to this. Did you engage each other in the bathtub? That's the comment that tipped an already rowdy question period to an all-out yelling match. The Prime Minister accused the Conservatives of making a homophobic slur, leading to this in the House today.
I've seen a lot of degrading elements in the history of my time here, but I've never seen anything as ugly as what happened yesterday.
We saw a disgusting display of homophobia.
I just want to remind members to please be careful.
We're seeing aspersions and quite frankly lies coming from the other side.
I think that it's time for members to please be judicious, to please think twice before they speak.
There is actually video evidence now of the member from Sherwood Park 4, Saskatchewan.
Becoming a different debate. This is becoming a different debate.
To what is extreme cowardice from that side of the House that can't admit.
So this is starting to snowball more and more.
Okay, so that's where we'll begin today with the Power Panel, who I'm sure are very excited to be talking about this. Cameron Amott is a former head of communications to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. James Moore is a former Conservative cabinet minister. Andrew Thompson is a former Saskatchewan NDP cabinet minister. And Shachi Kurl is the president of the Angus Reid Institute. Shachi, normally I write down like a list of little questions that I want to ask. And the question I just wrote down today is WTF question mark. What do you make of what the heck is happening in the House of Commons since it came back?
I am just so sick, David, at this stage of MPs all getting up in the House and saying, oh, things are getting terrible. They're really going downhill. It's getting more toxic when they are engaging in the toxicity of it all. And as to the Speaker, Mr. Fergus, how many more... please, somebody go find a kindergarten or a grade 1 teacher and put them in the Speaker's chair, because they will have a better, more effective time handling this crowd than Mr. Fergus appears to be.
Well, that's just because he's unfit for the job.
It's not about Mr. Fergus. It is about a long line of speakers who have not done what needs to be done. And yes, we saw the opposition leader have his privileges removed today. Great. It's one day. But, you know, this stuff is not being policed in Parliament. And it's all being done with this winky, nudgy knowingness of politicians, of strategists and politicos who say, this is terrible. We have to clean up the tone. We have to make it less toxic. We have to make it less polarizing and less gross. Oh, but now we're all going to do it anyway because it's effective in terms of targeting and motivating our support bases. Like, who is going to be the person who breaks the circuit around all of this? And it's the reason why today you see a 50-year low in the overall popularity of not just one major party leader, but all three of them have never been as unpopular as any of their counterparts over a 5-decade trend. People don't like the divided discourse. It turns them off.
But Andrew, what you're seeing in question period every day, and I know this is maybe a Planet Ottawa thing, but I'm not so sure it is. Like, there is a blatant disrespect for the Speaker, who is struggling for a bunch of reasons that he's had to deal with since he got in there. But just on the basic function and basic rules of how the House of Commons is supposed to work, I mean, Pierre Poilievre lost 3 questions today because he wouldn't withdraw his remark. He's intent on not saying he's sorry. And you saw Garnet Genuis there.
Let me pick this up. I mean, I fundamentally disagree with what Shachi's just said about this being a problem on all sides. There's one common thread about who is trying to destabilize and bring Parliament into the gutter, and that is a cause driven by the Conservative Party who is trying to feign outrage. Now, normally, an unruly House...
Just let him make his point. Just let him make his point. I'll get you in. Just let him finish. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, look, I think this both sidesism piece that, we have a tendency to like to do on this panel doesn't work in this case. I mean, there are the Conservatives, and they're doing it for a reason, and that is to try to make it look like the Liberals have lost control of the House. The problem here is, I think increasingly it's blowing back on the Conservatives. And what they look like is a party that's undisciplined and unfit to govern. And if that sticks, if this comes down to that kind of an issue, I think it works against them.
What does this tell us about the type of government we would get should the polls be correct and there is a change in government in the next election and the Conservative win, when you have just a simple request for, hey, what do you think of the climate policy, leads to an insult of people who have made a recommendation. I mean, it is an unnecessary punch down, it seems. Like, if you're 20 points ahead and you're riding in, you feel this is where you transition to that, as James was talking about, like, we're ready to go. We're going to be statesmen. We're ready to be there. And instead it's this kind of a thing.
I mean, look, whatever. Like, geez. I mean, it's spending time scrutinizing the official opposition's talking points. I don't remember having these conversations on panels when Liberals were calling Conservatives, and that we didn't care about murdered Aboriginal women, or that we didn't care about climate change. We were anti-science, and like I don't remember having these conversations about Liberal talking points when we were in government. But whatever. My advice to everybody in Parliament is this: having been there and having lost my temper a time or two. Just, if you think you need to yell something across the floor and to make a point and to make the people around you laugh, and you think you're being cute and witty, don't. Just get up, go for a walk, and just cool off, because every member of Parliament represents 100,000 people, which is to say 5 times the number of people who fit in a fully packed Rogers Arena here in Vancouver. You represent 100,000 people. If they were all looking at you, yelling across the Parliament, whatever you're yelling, it's not a good look. Don't do it. Don't heckle. Just be responsible.
Well, James, I'd be happy to talk about policy if a request for a position on climate, for example, gave us an answer, right? Like, we've had a couple of confidence votes this week already. They want to have a carbon tax election. You'd think there'd be some discussion of climate policy at this point, other than what they're going to get rid of rather than what they're going to bring in. Like, it's tough to have the conversations about that, right?
Well, with respect, we could have spent the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes on this panel talking about policy, and instead we're talking about decorum in Parliament. If you want to talk about policy, let's talk policy.
Okay.
You like this stuff.
What's their climate? Well, yeah. What is their climate? I had you a lot of conversations on the show on climate policy.
They're not, David. They're not the government. They're the opposition. Election campaigns are when you put forward your platforms about what you would do when you're in government. They're the opposition. When the time comes for them to ask Canadians to give them the opportunity to form government, they'll put forward their platform. Don't criticize them for not being the government now. When they go to Canadians and ask to be the government, they'll put forward their policy. That's how our system works.
Okay.
Yeah, but James, they've been trying to bring down the government and force an election. And if you're trying to bring down the government and force an election, shouldn't you bring forward what your policies are? Like, I thought it was very weird that Andrew Scheer's saying, "Oh, no, we're not there yet." When they're trying actively to bring it down.
That's definitely what campaigns are for.
I don't recall Wab Kinew putting out a fully detailed. You wait until the campaign. He brought down Brian Pallister. Then the NDP in Manitoba. They brought down and attacked and criticized Premier Stephenson. The campaign is launched. You put forward your platform. You say, "Trust us to do better." That's how our system works. Here we are spending the whole time chastising the opposition for not acting like a government. They're not the government. They're the opposition. Their time will come.
I mean, yeah, I couldn't have said it any better. They all know the process here. They know that this is how it's going to be going down until there's an actual election being put forward. Then their campaign is not going to be out there. And if a vote of no confidence does go through and they know the election will show up, well, then, yeah, it makes sense for them to do it then. But for now, you kind of give a general answer, axe the tax, build the homes, yada, yada. Kind of gives people the idea of what you're running on, but not getting into the nitty gritty of all the details. But as always, this is just how I look at it. I'd love to hear from you guys, so please let me know in the comment section below. If you made it till the end there, I really do appreciate it as always. I know some of these videos have gotten a little bit long, but some people like the long, some people like the short. I don't know, I'm still trying to figure out how to condense these videos if I can. But as always, I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.